What's going on, guys? Welcome back to the channel. Today we're going to be taking a look at another old locomotive to see if we can fix it up and get it running again. Today we're going to be looking at an Alco Century 424 by AHM. Now this is a locomotive that I actually don't remember where I got it. I've had it for a while and I ran it for a while, but I don't remember where it came from. What I do know is that at one point in time it was $18 at Ace Hardware. Anyway, what we're going to do today is get this guy running again. Now I will let on that I have, one, ran this locomotive before, and two, have taken apart this locomotive before, potentially for the same problem as why it's not running currently. Now this engine is wonderfully packaged in styrofoam that is open on both sides. And here we are, out of the box. It's a little dirty, I haven't opened this up in a while. What the problem is with this locomotive is that on the tracks, the lights will all turn on, but the motor will not spin. And I believe it to be one of the brushes for the motor. Now since I've been inside this engine before, I can tell you it has an interesting motor setup where the motor is basically part of the chassis, if I remember right. And what I assume to be the problem is that one of the brushes has fallen off, and so it's not getting power all the way through the armature. With that being said, I'm going to go ahead and open him up so we can get a good look inside and see what's going on. To remove the body on this guy, I believe it is just these two clips on the end, one there and one there. Oh, and there are some clips up the side of the body as well. So just kind of squeezing the body here. There it is. So now we are inside the locomotive, and like I said, here's kind of the interesting motor design about this engine. The motor and brushes, armature, the whole drivetrain is kind of built into the chassis. So if I ever needed to swap the motor out on this engine, it would be pretty hard to find something that would just direct drop in there without modifying a bunch of stuff. Now it looks like I have put both the brushes back into their spots where they're supposed to go. However, the one on the bottom side here is very loose and not actually connected. Oh, and there it fell out. So our goal today will be getting this brush reattached back to this arm, and I'm going to clean up that armature a bit too. For doing that, it's probably hard to see this on camera. This time the camera is kind of an action camera, doesn't focus very well. But there is what looks to be a little piece of metal that we can solder in there, and there's obviously solder on the outside of the connection here. So what I'm going to do is heat up my soldering iron, and the problem with doing this is I'll have to be careful about hitting the handrails and not melting them. So let me put the brush back in and heat up my soldering iron, and I will see you in a minute. Alright, with our soldering iron warm, unfortunately it doesn't look like I can go straight at it through this guardrail, so I'm going to have to come at it on the side angle. Hopefully we'll melt the solder in the brush to the solder on the outside post and get that brush connected back up again. Alright, awesome. We've got that all soldered up now. Now when the armature moves, our brush is staying fixed in place. So I'm going to clean this armature up, and then what we're going to do is do a quick once over on the drive gears down in this truck. We'll pop this off, clean out any of the old oil or whatever lubricants in there, and we'll apply some new stuff to hopefully get this running as smooth as it can run. Alright guys, and to clean that armature off, I'm going to take a Q-tip here with some isopropyl alcohol and just spin this around, cleaning it up as we go. Try and get as much of that brush deposit off as we can. It'll be some better contact and resulting continuity between our motor and brushes then. Alright, awesome. We got that a lot of the way cleaned up. Let's go ahead and take this truck off here, and I'm actually going to put the shell back on. One, because it's easy to get off if we have to get it off again, but I believe we are done working inside the engine on the motor portion, so I feel confident enough to put this shell back on. I'm going to get my handrails lined up here so I don't crush or break anything. Awesome. All right, and then we are going to put him in the blue foam. Flip him over, and we're going to take this driving truck off. Well, not the whole truck, but the base of it to get a look at those drive gears. All right, guys, so I got the truck off. It's very easy to get off on this locomotive. Just take the screwdriver, tip it back, and pop off a clip in the bottom there. So let's get some oil and wipe these guys off. We'll just clean up any of the hairs and crap that are left over on these gears here. These gears actually look pretty clean, well, except for this one's got some hair and stuff on it. So now that we got a lot of that hair and gunk out of there, there's nothing really on these guys here of concern. All right, so I've got the oil here. We'll just give these guys a dab of oil. Do the same thing on these ones here. And I'll just make sure that they get into the pickups when I put them back in. Now this engine, unlike the last engine I repaired, which you can check out that video in the top right corner there, this one actually has wiper pickups, which is very nice, and I assume a pretty modern design back when this engine was made. All right, front set is set in. I'll do the back here. And we've got our pickups there. And we'll just dab a couple drops of oil on here. And I think that'll be enough. All right, so what we're gonna do is carefully try and reinstall this base plate. It's tough with the front knuckle on it. See if I can rotate things out of the way here to get that coupler through the frame and then on top of the wheels. There we go. All four pickups are on the correct side of the wheel. Try and drop this guy in. All right, and there we go. I'll just snap this back clip back in, and there we go. We are all back in place. All right, guys, I know I said I was going to keep the body on, but I thought better of it, and we're actually going to head to the layout first with the body off, so we can make sure all of our moving components in here are moving correctly and that things aren't arcing all over the place. So let's head over to the layout. I'll see you guys there. Alrighty, everybody, we are here on the layout now with the chassis of our Alco diesel. One more place that I am going to add some oil is in the shaft bearings for the motor. Just a touch of oil in there. Make sure everything is spinning as free as can be. And now I didn't do any bench tests for this guy because I wanted to see everything upright and spinning, since we don't want any valve gear to worry about like on the steam engine. So let's see if everything does move with that brush soldered back in there and go from there. I'm gonna go try triangle forwards first. Oh yeah. Look at that, there we go. Had a little bit of a rough start initially. But there we go, that you can see that armature moving now. So yeah, I think a little bit more of just running this engine in, and he's gonna be running in top shape. Still just a little bit sticky on the bottom end, but I think he'll be more than fine running around the layout. It also is just so interesting to see such an open winding design on a motor. I've never seen a design like this. But if you've seen it on any other locomotives, leave it in the comments below. I'd be curious to take a look at more with this design. Seems pretty open and serviceable to every part of the motor, so works for me. So without any further ado, I think that only leaves one thing to do, and that is put on our body once again. Now that we know everything functions, everything looks good, we'll fit our body on, and I think we will send him around the layout with some cars. All right, body reinstalled, and it is still running just fine. It looks like the only lights we have on this engine are up by the head code numbers, but they don't look very bright running at the lower speeds, and there also are no numbers in those Well, I guess the middle is technically a headlight as well. Let me move the camera. I guess the middle is technically a headlight if we take a look at this running up past us. We do have a little bit of a headlight there. So we have a little something. Anyway, let's not get ahead of ourselves and let's couple him up to an actual train and have him run around the layout. Now, since our Milwaukee Road diesel has the old style couplings in front, I'm gonna have to use an adapter caboose here. Has the old style coupling in the front and the new knuckle in the back. It's not the most elegant design, but for hauling our rolling stock around right now, it'll do the job. Now that he's hooked up, let's run him around the layout and see how he does. Here we go. Now, one thing I have noticed is there's definitely a reason this engine has traction tires on it, and it's because it's wheel slipping a lot. It's a pretty light engine, and there's not a lot of cars it's hauling. It's hauling the same amount of cars that the Union Pacific engine did last time in our last restoration video. But on the straights, he seems just fine. And it looks like that mechanism is working itself loose as it keeps running along. So we'll let him run. Here's some B-roll, and thanks for watching.